Hello again. Today I'm talking about Mad God, as well as another Phil Tippet film he made, Starship Troopers 2, Hero of the Federation, which is a film he made in between making this film. So I thought I'd cover it too. I watched it as well. Mad God's by far the better film, by the way. Um, so Mad God was something that Phil Tippet, who is a effects guru who did the AT-ATs and Empire Strikes Back, and did a lot of the stuff in the Star Wars original trilogy. He did Robocop stuff, all the stop motion Robocop. You know, he set up everything in Jurassic Park. Even after he went to CGI, he supervised the CGI, which is why CGI in the early Jurassic Park films all look so good. Because he's the one who trained everybody and set them up. He did the creatures in Starship Troopers as well. Again, they hold up really well. And a lot of that stuff there, the CGI, a lot of the reason why it holds up so well is Phil Tippett was in charge and he made sure it was good. And there's a lot of other technicians there as well helping out. But he was the one in movement. And then movement's the thing that makes or breaks a character in CGI or anything else. It's how they move, because if you're looking at the movement, you're not focusing on anything else. So you're not spotting any fakery. If the movement's wrong, you're spotting every little bit of fakery. So it's the thing is, and also if the movement's wrong, the CGI creature will move in a way that will expose fakery because it's moving wrong and it's the pacing of it's wrong. So it's difficult to actually put everything in the right places when something's wrong with it. So it just makes it look instantly fake. Because the movements are too slow or too fast, or the lighting's wrong or whatever. So I mean, he did do a lot of CGI after switching from stop motion, but his stuff is always a good CGI because he knew what he was doing. He's a professional. But he started this by always filming RoboCop 2, doing I mean, RoboCop 2 is one of those films where the stop motion stuff for the new RoboCop was the highlight of the film. It's like everyone says the film had problems, but the stop motion stuff is great. And it's true, stop motion stuff is the best thing in that film. I mean, it's the reason to watch the film mostly. Is like, I quite like RoboCop 2, but it's a very flawed film. So during RoboCop 2, he started filming Mad God, and he started filming in little bits as little pieces of this film, and he created his own way of doing it. And then years later, I think he showed little bits and bobs around in different festivals. And later on, he decided to finish it up and create the 83-minute version of Mad God that I'm talking about now. In between then, he moved on. He wanted to do direction after a certain point of time of doing lots of CGI stuff. He wanted to move on to direction because he'd been the kind of person in CGI who'd done a lot of the big, him and like Dennis Muren, the two big guys in CGI. I mean, Muren was doing the CGI cop in Terminator 2, like T-1000, and then they got together for Jurassic Park. Like Muren did the technical stuff and Tippett did the movement. And then Tippett did the next big jump, was the Starship Troopers. And there hasn't been a massive jump since Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers did scale. I mean, there was other things like Fifth Element, when at the same time did this big city landscape that would get the Star Wars prequels later on and all these other ones. So that was another big jump. But it was only a few shots, really, ultimately. So a lot of this time, during this time, all the big jumps were done, and then after that, CGI kind of advanced everything slowly, or evolved it slowly, because most monsters do not look as good as some of these mid-90s stuff, because they had to take their time at it. So, Tippett went to direct after that, after doing this massive amount of work on CGI, making it an art form, basically, that was going to dominate the industry. He kind of wanted to move on a direction. So he got the chance, because he'd already done the Mad God thing, but he had a chance for Starship Troopers 2, because Starship Troopers was a big film that didn't do that much money to start off, but it was a cult film and it kept on making money. It was always It's one of those films that, even though it didn't have a massive hit when it came out, because it came out just before Titanic and it just got buried, it was such an interesting, weird film that it kept on getting people watching and watching and watching. It was just spreading. So it was like, okay, what do we do with this? Because it's obviously there's something here. People like this as sarcasm. So they decided to do a direct-to-video sequel that might play in a few festivals, but mainly it'll be on DVD. And so what they did was they had Phil Tippet to do it, because he'd been doing direction with his stop motion. And if he's doing now, he'd do the stop motion as well. He would do the stop motion CGI things and make the CGI look good. And they could replay certain shots, but also he could make sure the effects look good at a budget. And he had a chance to shoot the film. So he did the film. And when as soon as you've seen Mad God and Starship Troopers 2 together, you realise, yep, it was the same guy did it, because there's the place where they're trapped throughout the film looks like a background from Mad God. It's like this kind of old castle, old Frankenstein castle type of feel to it. It's as gothic as they possibly could get away with, and there's a body snatchers feel through the film, and it's all the bugs trying to take over the minds of the soldiers to take over the Federation from inside. I mean, the plot's pretty basic body snatcher thing, and they don't have the best actors involved. You get a few good ones in there, but a lot of the actors are not like master thespians. But it works fine for what it is. It's a direct-to-video sequel. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's got a bad rap. I think it's because it's a low-budget sequel that's not as sarcastic as the first film, and doesn't have the budget of the first film. People wanted to see more of the first film, and it was like, no, this is like people trapped in a small location. It's still a fascist world. There's still lots of hypocrisies involved, but it's a nice little low-budget B movie. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, everybody making it knew what it was, and Tippett did pretty well with direction. Everything looks nice. It's atmospheric. So it's a good professional bit of work. They didn't get them any further though, because people expected Starship Troopers, but you couldn't do that in a budget. So it was like, you got to direct, but you got to direct a film that was a dead end, basically. I mean, and then Ed Newman did Starship Troopers 3, which is much more like the first one. I think he had a bit more money, but not much. And it had more ideas, but worse effects. So it's going to compromise. If you're going to do Starship Troopers sequel, you had to do a Starship Troopers sequel. Not what they did. But I'm quite happy these two sequels exist. They are cheesy, they're fun, they're silly. But it's like, they're not for everybody. So after that, Tippett went back to work as effects guy, but he's still doing Mad God, and then eventually decided to finish it off as what you get here. The Mad God is about it's hard to explain because there's no central character. It's an existential stop motion film about a post-apocalyptic world. There's lots of mutations, and some character from above, played by Alex Cox, the film director Alex Cox, is dropping these soldiers down to investigate this world. And he's just mass producing these soldiers and dropping them down, and none of them ever succeed, at their mission, which seems to be able to blow something up or do whatever. It's like one of those things it's about the futility of the existence of a soldier, and the futility of trying to make logical sense of the world that has gone so bad. It's like having a plan when the world has gone to hell. There's nothing you can do to make sense of this world anymore. And that's the film's about. The film's about the atmosphere. I mean, it's a film that 10 minutes in, you're going to know whether it's for you or not. Really is, because at that point, there's not much of a narrative. It's about atmosphere. Because if you follow one character, the character's going to die. And they're going to switch to another character who looks the same as the first character. And you realise there's just this cloning system going on. And then the only human character you really see is Alex Cox, and he's playing a weirdo. So he's like, basically God from the old dark house in a way, or a kind of older God who's just mad. He's just crazy. And it's just this atmosphere of him sending people to do things that are just insane. And when you go down to the worlds, these ruined worlds, things are mutating. Creatures are working over other creatures. People are doing their own mad schemes and squashing these soldiers and trying to make something new out of them and creating dust with them that can do something. And it makes sense emotionally, but it doesn't fill in the gaps. So you can see this is definitely this. It's a film you can probably watch quite a few times. I mean, it's one of those ones you probably wouldn't need drugs for this film. The film does it all itself. You don't need drugs for this one. This covers the trippiness by itself. And it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. But it is obviously a film made it's in parts. Like it is like a bunch of short films put together. But they all have one cohesive whole. So it is like, maybe not short films, like little novellas put together, creating this one world that coheres well. But the first viewing, you're not going to work out everything. Like I followed it to a degree, but I know like 2 or 3 viewings will probably help a lot to understand what's going on. But I don't even need to feel I need to know what's going on totally. I just need to know what the emotions are of the situation and why it's happening. I don't need to know every little thing about it. That's fine. I don't really need, like, I'm happy just to see the atmosphere of it and the sense of dislocation that's gone through it. And that's why I said it felt the Starship Troopers, this felt definitely felt the same director, because the best bits of the Starship Troopers 2 was the atmosphere. It wasn't about directing the actors so much as the actors who were good could take care of themselves, and the actors who weren't so good just did the stuff and you hope they died quickly. But it was just the atmosphere through that film worked better, and with the low shots and the shots moving through all this kind of machinery and things. That was more interesting than the actual actors. And that continues here where there's no actors, there's just an animator who's working these characters who don't even have much of a personality because they're so worn down, they're just like clones, and then you get little bits of personality with certain characters they run into, and then they die instantly. And it's like, it's that kind of cruel world where there's no survival, it's just the dog eat dog, instantly horrific things happen all the time, and every place they go is somewhere different, and there's always these suitcases they bring with them, and there's always these signs of all these other suitcases throughout the world, suggesting that this thing's repeated from place to place. There's nowhere new they haven't sent someone before. Like it's a used world where it's just everything's going to hell. There's no logic. It's an existential nightmare where no matter what you've done before, it doesn't matter. Like everything you've tried doesn't matter. Every ideal you've got doesn't matter. All you've got is these suitcases, suggesting bombs that can go off and destroy things, but also just disuse and waste, and a sense of need for violence that doesn't really achieve anything, because the mad god of the title, Alex Scott's character, has a need for violence and sending these creatures out to blow stuff up without really having a point of view of why. It's just he wants this to happen. It's obviously he's the mad god. He's destroyed everything. Things have mutated, and he can't take it, and it's just craziness. It's just existential craziness, and that's the dominant thing in the film. The sense of craziness, this world gone crazy, which feels very now. So it's a very now film. I don't want to go into too much details at the end. I'm trying to cover the first half. The first half does float through towards the end as well, the atmosphere of it all. But I'm trying not to give you that much detail in any specific thing, because you need to experience it, really. I'm hoping this kind of gives you an idea what the film is and makes you interested in seeing it. But I'm not going to say any more about it, because I think you need to see it and experience it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is definitely a film worth watching, Mad God. And even Starship Troopers 2 is worth watching if you go in knowing some of the actors are dodgy. Right? But the atmosphere is quite nice for that kind of budget. And it is a B movie. But Mad God's far superior. So even if you can't stand Starship Troopers 2, Mad God's worth seeing because this is like Tippett doing what he really wanted to do. Starship Troopers 2 was kind of it was a job. It's the best way to put it. It's practice for another film. So, The Mad God's highly recommended. It's definitely one of the best films I've seen this year. So, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon with some more. Right, bye for now.